With the NFL offseason heating up and free agency just around the corner, we are about to see some major changes throughout the league. There hasn't been this many great quarterbacks hitting the open market before. Alongside them, there are plenty of valuable defensive and offensive players that are about to get paid. There are some potential playoff teams that have cap space to work with, there are teams that are rebuilding that have loads of money, and some contending teams that have a decent amount to spend as well. The landscape of the NFL could certainly change dramatically with just one signing. And today, I'm going to be bringing you All Sports Culture's 2020 NFL free agency predictions. I'm going to be going through all the higher level free agents that will be hitting the market next week and projecting where these players will end up. Note, I am not going to be including players that are expected to be or already are tagged. So don't expect to see anyone like Derrick Henry, Chris Jones, Justin Simmons, or Matthew Judon to be included here. Before I get started, I just wanted to say thank you so much for showing love to our mock draft, and just wanted to announce that there will be a post-free agency edition with trades, so be sure to stick around for that. Also, let us see your predictions down below. We would love to talk sports with you. With all that being said, let's get right into All Sports Culture's 2020 NFL free agency predictions. At the quarterback position, we have a lot of options this year. To start us off, we have my number one available free agent this offseason, which is Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys. This decision is pretty clear to me. I think Dak is going to be with the Cowboys for a long time. Dallas and Dak have been discussing an extension for so long, and I know that they haven't come to an agreement yet, but even if they don't, they aren't just going to let their franchise quarterback walk out the door so easily. The Cowboys would just end up franchise tagging him. Dak Prescott staying in Dallas is probably the easiest pick of all of free agency. Arguably the greatest quarterback of all time is hitting the open market for the first time in his career, and absolutely nobody knows what he is planning on doing. This is the guy that everybody from quarterbacks to front office executives are going to wait on to determine what they're going to do. Does Brady just want the biggest payday he can possibly get after taking pay cut after pay cut with the Patriots for so long? Or does he want to continue being a competitor? Or maybe a little bit of both. There are a lot of suitors listed for Tom Brady. The Raiders, the Chargers, the Bucks, the Patriots, and the Titans, just to name a few. Although I do think each destination has their own unique qualities, if you watched our mock draft, you should already know my answer. I don't think Tom Brady is going anywhere. I believe he's just going to hit the open market and realize that his legacy is the best to be concluded with the franchise that he has been with for so long. I don't think there's anything he has to prove where he would have to go win a Super Bowl with another team. I don't believe that's needed for him. So yes, I have Tom Brady staying put in New England, and this is going to ripple throughout the league for where quarterbacks will go. Continuing the trend of keeping quarterbacks with their current teams, that isn't going to change here. Ryan Tannehill is staying put in Tennessee. The only way I don't see this happening is if Tom Brady does indeed end up leaving New England and goes to the Titans, but you already know my take on that. The Titans found their quarterback after many years of having nothing notable, and I don't think he is worth losing for a quarterback in his 40s. I personally think Tannehill should be the Titans' number one priority this offseason, and not Derrick Henry, but what do I know? But yes, Tannehill is not going anywhere in my opinion, and I think that's for the best for both sides. This is where things start to get interesting. Teddy Bridgewater had a great stretch of games with the Saints when Drew Brees went out with a hand injury, so he has proven that he can handle an offense. He most certainly is not going to return to NOLA with how much he's about to get paid, so he's definitely going to have a change of scenery soon. But where? It comes down to two teams for me, the Chargers and the Buccaneers. I believe both teams are a quarterback away from being potential playoff teams, but what it comes down to is this: who is closer? And I think with Tampa having more cap space, along with the fact that they have had no discussions at all with Jameis Winston on an extension, that they will end up signing Teddy. Now, I don't love the fit. Tutty is a very good intermediate passer, but Bruce Arians wants a guy with a cannon for an arm. But I think Tampa is just sick of being set back because of their quarterback shortcomings, and it's sounding like the Chargers are planning on drafting a quarterback as well. So I believe that the Buccaneers are going to make sure they get a reliable quarterback to orchestrate their offense. Jameis Winston. What do I do with you? This one is easily the most tough decision out of every single free agent this offseason. I don't honestly know where he would best work out, and the only logical fit I see working out for Jameis is in Indianapolis. Winston signing with the Colts is his best bet for getting him back on track. They develop quarterbacks extremely well, but is it too late to save Jameis? I don't really think any other team potentially in play has as good of a shot as Frank Reich has at fixing Jameis. Now, to relate back to that, it's sounding like Phillip Rivers to Indianapolis is just a lock at this point because of all the connections, and yeah, it makes total sense. But I gave them Jameis because I don't think Rivers improves your team that much at all. And fixing Jameis's potential possibly could. So I think he is the better move for the franchise. So I have Phillip Rivers signing with the Chicago Bears in order to give Mitchell Trubisky a veteran to compete with. There isn't really any other team out there he could start for, so he ends up in Chicago banking on his efforts of potentially beating out Mitch for the starting job. Moving on from the quarterbacks, we have the wideouts, and the cream of the crop this year is Amari Cooper. Amari waited until this offseason because he wanted to get paid, and after the Julio and Michael Thomas extensions, I think he will. He isn't going anywhere different to get that extension. Amari is going to stay in Dallas. He has said many times he wants to stay a Cowboy, and I just don't see him leaving. Robbie Anderson is probably the most overrated wide receiver on the market this offseason. He's expecting a lot of money, but I don't think it's going to be there for him. So he's going to return to the Jets. I just don't see any other team willingly vowing to pay him that range of money, and Sam Darnold seems to like him, and I think the Jets are really the only team here that are somewhat interested in paying him that kind of money. Emmanuel Sanders, after getting traded from the Broncos to the 49ers, is now a free agent. Even though Sanders was traded in the hopes of a Super Bowl, unless he takes a pay cut, I really don't see him returning with the 49ers' rough cap space situation. The Niners also have to pay a player like Eric Armstead, which is going to be a higher priority for them. But I do see another contender jumping in on the Sanders sweepstakes. The Baltimore Ravens would be a really nice landing spot for Emmanuel Sanders. A dynamic offense that wouldn't demand a lot out of him, that could afford to bring him into a not-so-stellar wide receiver group. He'd be a great veteran to add to Lamar Jackson's arsenal, and I think he'd be a very valuable piece in that offense. On to the tight ends, we have Austin Hooper of the Atlanta Falcons. Hooper is going to end up resetting the market for tight ends, but I just don't believe that he is worth around $10 million per year. And obviously neither did the Falcons. That's what he's going to end up getting until George Kittle comes in and destroys that. But I have the Arizona Cardinals signing Hooper. They have one of the worst tight end situations in the whole NFL, and I feel as if they would love to give Kyler Murray another weapon over the middle of the field. The Colts are letting Eric Ebron hit the market after a disappointing 2019. And I think one team that was desperate for a tight end all of last season would love to pick him up for an affordable contract. It's the Patriots. This is going to be one of the moves they make in order to convince Brady to stay. As well, it puts Ebron in a situation where he can potentially rejuvenate his career under a system that utilizes the tight end effectively. I just think it's perfect for both sides. On to the position I don't think any team should pay in any scenario, but here we are. Kenyon Drake of the Cardinals is next up, and I think the Cardinals are going to bring him back. They've shown to be willing to pay up for running backs, even though I believe no team ever should. I mean, they're already regretting doing it with David Johnson because he's on the trade block, but Drake is perfect for the Cliff Kingsbury scheme, and I don't see him leaving anytime soon. After a failed holdout attempt in the Austin Eckler extension, that just spells the end for Melvin Gordon's time in LA. The man purely just wants to be paid. Whoever will pay him the most, he will go to. And I think that's the team that has been searching for a featured back for forever, and that's the Buccaneers. They have the cap space to afford paying him, and even though I don't agree with it, I think it'll happen. And as a casualty of Derrick Henry getting tagged and Ryan Tannehill getting extended, Jack Conklin is going to end up walking this offseason. And that just kind of sucks for the Titans, but it kind of was their fault because they didn't pick up his option, which is kind of stupid for a tackle, but besides the point. And I think there are tons of teams that are going to be calling for his services, but there is one that stands out to me. The New York Jets are the type of team to go crazy and pay him what he wants. They absolutely need to protect Sam Darnold, and their current draft position does not guarantee them one of the top 4 tackles in this upcoming class. Conklin is going to get paid top market value, and I think the Jets will gladly do it. It's looking like the Packers aren't going to bring back longtime right tackle Brian Bulaga, but they should. Green Bay never brings back third contract guys, so I think Bulaga is a goner. The team that I think will pay him is going to be the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield was atrocious last season behind his weak offensive line, and he needs to be safe. So the Browns sign a reliable right tackle and plan on drafting the left side in this upcoming draft. We have Joe Thuney, and like I stated in my mock draft, I believe Joe Thuney is out the door with Tom Brady eating up most of the Patriots' cap space. The Miami Dolphins need to improve their offensive line for whoever their next quarterback is going to be, whether it's Tua, Herbert, or even Fitzpatrick. They have the Patriots connections and the cap space in order to lure them down to South Beach. The lines between the dots are pretty clear here, so I think this is one of the more likely signings out of this free agency. The man who made the most noise on the trade block last year was Jadeveon Clowney, and now that he is hitting the open market, he will be able to get the money that he wants. He claims that he wants to continue competing, but also get a top salary. So personally, I don't think teams like the Giants or Dolphins are in play here, despite their rumored interest. I do think, however, that 2 fringe playoff teams could use some help on the edge, and could pay Clowney at the same time. I'm not going to spoil one of them right now because I have them landing someone else later on, so I have Jadeveon Clowney signing with the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts have tons of money to spend, so it really doesn't hurt them to spend top dollar for an edge rusher. Even though Clowney isn't truly at the top of the position, I do believe that Seattle will try their best to bring him back, but Indy is just going to take him out of their price range. So the Colts make 2 big splashes this free agency in hoping of unlocking the full potential of these players. Rams pass rusher Dante Fowler looks to be out the door because of the Rams' current cap situation. LA has to pay players like Jalen Ramsey soon, so they're going to lose out on their own guys. There are 2 landing spots that really intrigue me for Fowler, which are the Atlanta Falcons and the New York Jets. My decision comes down to something pretty simple: money. And the Jets simply have more of it. This signing also allows New York to go offense in the first round of this upcoming class, which they desperately need after so many defensive players being taken in the first round for them over the past few years. They need help on the edge. It just makes total sense to me. Okay, I kind of lied when I said no tagged players, but this situation is entirely different from the others. Yannick claims that he is out the door, so he's more than likely going to get dealt. Wherever he gets dealt, he's going to get paid. And remember what I said earlier with Clowney? That there were 2 fringe playoff teams with cap for him? Well, that other team is the Buffalo Bills, and I think Yannick will be their big splash move this offseason. He'd fit very nicely into their defense and fits their timeline. Personally, I would love this move for them, and I think it'd be a home run if they get it done. On to the defensive line. I'm going to make this one short and sweet. DJ Reader is part of a Houston defense that is a lot of meh with some really good individual players in it. DJ just happens to be one of the really good players in it. Houston has a lot of cap, so I don't think they can afford to lose him. So I ultimately think he returns to the Texans. Eric Armstead is going to be San Francisco's #1 priority this offseason, and I think that will reflect in my decision. I think Armstead is staying put as well. They'll pay him good money, and San Fran will try their best to keep that core together that went to the Super Bowl. Apparently, the Giants and Leonard Williams are far apart on an extension, and they might end up tagging him. I don't personally think Leonard Williams is anything special, but they just traded a 3rd rounder and a 4th rounder for a run-stuffing lineman on a bad team. Those picks are valuable for a team like the Giants, so they have to bring him back. So I think Gettleman continues his love for big guys and re-signs Williams. The inside linebacker market this year isn't that great, but it got reset with an extension to Bobby Wagner last offseason. So these guys are going to get paid some decent money. Corey Littleton will most likely not be back with the Rams next year due to their cap situation, and simply, I think he will be out of their price range. So I have Littleton landing with the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are letting Blake Martinez walk in free agency because he simply doesn't work well in their defense. Littleton is the opposite. He fits their mold perfectly and will get paid the money he wants by Green Bay after they have shown that they are willing to pay big money for defensive talent. Green Bay has such a huge hole at inside linebacker, and their draft position doesn't look to be landing them one of the top 3 guys in the draft. The Browns are letting Joe Schobert test the open market, and I believe that there is one team that would absolutely love Schobert, the Las Vegas Raiders. They have holes all over their defense, and Schobert would be a really nice piece to slot into that. I brought up Martinez earlier, and so you can tell I don't think he will be back with the Packers. I personally don't know what team would pay him the type of money he is looking for his caliber of play, but with that being said, I'm just going to give him to a team with the most noise about being interested in him, which is going to be the New York Giants. I don't love the signing here, but I don't think New York is going to attract any big fish like they want to. Because of Dak and Amari getting paid, Byron Jones is not going to be a Cowboy next season. A lot of teams are said to be interested in him, but I think he will go where the money talks. And that's in Vegas. The Raiders need a corner desperately, and Byron Jones seems like just the type of move to get them some sort of stability on the outside. After the AJ Bouye trade, that spells out the end for Chris Harris's time in Denver. And I think he wants to get paid by a contender. Now there are 2 teams that I think Harris should really consider. Those being the Chiefs and the Texans. I know it sounds kind of unfair to add Harris to KC, but I don't see it realistically happening. It sounds like they are going to pay Chris Jones, and they have the Mahomes extension looming, so it really doesn't seem likely. So to continue proving my statement from earlier about the Texans defense, I have them signing Chris Harris. If I'm being honest, I actually really like the fit here, and this is the best landing spot if he desires to get paid by a contending team. The Texans have just been cycling corners in and out all over the past season, so I think it makes loads of sense for the Texans with all the money they have to sign Chris Harris. I lied again. I'm sorry. I know Darius Slay isn't a free agent, but it is sounding like he is going to get traded, so I thought that I would chime in on this situation. And there is one team that put a ton of effort into trying to trade for Jalen Ramsey, but could not pull it off. But this time around with Slay, it is much more manageable. And that's the Philadelphia Eagles. Their corner play last year was flat out terrible, and Slay would automatically give them their cornerback 1 for years to come. He keeps them in their contending window, and it's a massive upgrade over anything they have in that secondary. The Vikings' current cap situation is tight, and I don't see Anthony Harris being able to be brought back at high market value, so I have him changing situations in 2020. 2 teams here I really like for Harris are the Browns and the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers have more cap space to sign him, but ultimately, the Browns include the familiarity with the Viking staff after the Kevin Stefanski hire that I think will lead him to sign with Cleveland. I personally love the fit in Tampa more. I just believe he'll value continuity with the staff he is already familiar with. He always talks about loving Minnesota and the personnel, so if he has to change situations, it'll be with people he already knows.